Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. So yeah, about time I got back out in the garage again. One of the projects I have opened that I really want to work its way toward closed is the 2007 Pit Bike. And you guys know I got it running, which is a good thing, right? That's all cool. So I don't have to put an engine onto it. And then that tells me, do I have $80 worth of parts here, or am I going to go forward? Given the fact that it is a runner and it's not smoking or anything, it sounds pretty good. I'm going to go forward with this bike. So starting right in the front wheel appears to be good. The front brakes work. It's missing the lever. If you push the little rubber thing in, where is it? Right there, right? If you push that little rubber thing in, the brakes work, which is a good thing, but this is broken down here, so the perch is broken, so I need a new master. And now comes always the debates. My other bike, the other pit bike, the master's fine, but the front caliper is dragging. So I'm considering buying an entire assembly, putting the master here, and the front caliper on the other bike. Just the master is about $15. The entire assembly is, it comes with brake shoes and the hose and all that, is like $36. So we're on our way backwards. Given that this thing is an electric start, there should be some kind of dashboard here, and I think it might have had a light, because once again with the electric start and battery you can easily have a light. For now I'm going to leave those things off, so I'm not really going to count those, though they are part of the bike if I want to bring it back to original. Luckily this bike, the plastic, both the front fender and the rest of the plastic is in really pretty decent shape, so from a cosmetic point of view, we're cool. It's missing the back chain guard thing here. I'm not going to let that drive me crazy. Just quickly, while I have the wires in my hand, I'm always asked a load of questions about wiring. I have all these extra wires. What do I do? You know, and all that. Guys, to make a bike run, you just need these 3 wires, right? Blue and white, green, and red and black. Red and black, powered to your CDI. Green, ground. Blue and white goes to your pulsar. These would eventually charge your battery. They'd go to a regulator, then your battery. And all this crap here just tells you that if you're in neutral or not. They wire a lot of this crap up so that you can't electrically start the bike while gunning the engine in gear and have it take off on you. They want to make sure you're in neutral and all that kind of stuff. So all this stuff is interlock. So depends what you want to do. You want to make the bike run, you just need these 3 wires. You want to make it charge the battery, add those 2 wires. You want to hook up all the interlocks, then you got to start fooling around with this stuff and figure out where it goes. I don't know. I think if you're enough of an adult or adolescent where your parents trust you with this thing, you should also be able to figure out how to get into neutral before you turn the key and try to start it. If you can't do that, then you really probably shouldn't have the bike, right? My thoughts. Other people might think differently, and that's fine. So, we're working our way back. I already bought the pivot bolt. It was like $15. So I got that. Now it comes to the rear wheel. I think the rear wheel was changed out on this bike. I mean, it's blue, the front one's chromed. So I think this was swapped out at some point. The tire really looks, I mean, not new, but it's really in pretty decent shape, the way the spokes are and so forth. I think this thing had the wheel swapped out on it, but it, I mean, you can see the way the spokes are clean all the way around, right? New tube and all. But then the bearings look like they're old, and as a matter of fact, if you count the bearings, there's quite a bit of space there and down there. There's a lot of space. So, and it suffers from that on this side too, right? See all that space there. So it looks like I need back bearings, and I need a back rotor. I need the caliper. I need the the front, or for the back brake. I need the master cylinder. I need the hydraulics, and I need the little lever. So you can see parts are adding up. I'm just checking to make sure it's not stripped. Now I think what happened with this bike is they bought it a new back wheel for whatever reason, and it looks like they might have tried to swap the bearings out or something, because this should really have a cap on it, and it's like missing pieces there. These by the way, as you're looking at this, these rear ends come in a couple of different size axles, 12 and 15 millimeters. This one happens to be a 15 millimeter, and if you have to buy the axle, the 12 millimeter ones are cheap, like $10. The 15 millimeter ones are more expensive. I can obviously turn an axle for this, but given I have bad bearings, like your GPS does, recalculating, that's kind of what I need to do. I need to put a little more thought into that. I just quickly took a minute to add up what I have in the bike and what's going to end up in the bike. So far I have $80 in the bike and $12 for the rear pivot bolt. That bolt right there. I haven't put it on yet. I still have the carriage bolt is still there. So those two are there, and I ordered a carb and air cleaner because this one likes to flood and I don't want to deal with that. I'd like to make this bike nice. So I got $25. So I got a little over $100 into it, which gets it running but doesn't get it moving. The bike will not move because I don't have the rear wheel sorted out yet. If you have all the hardware, including the sprocket and the rotor, you could buy a tire and wheel assembly in 12-inch. This is the 12-inch model, delivered for about $70. But if you don't have all the hardware, if you add the rotor, and I happen to need the rotor, the caliper, the master, the hose, the whole bit, that's like another $50 bill. Sprockets are about $30. Very quickly, you could see this bike becoming expensive. I'm not completely sorted on the rear end yet. I have to see if I could get bearings, and if I do get bearings, which bearings to get, and so forth. But where are we? $80 for the bike, $12 for the rear pivot, $22 for the rear bolt, $17 for the pit bike ignition. This ignition system is completely hacked up. I'm going to put a regular pit bike ignition. I don't know how much rear bearings are going to cost. The little bit I sniffed around and looked at them, I really didn't find them that easily, which means now I have to start measuring outer, inner thickness and figure out what they are. They're probably standard, but it's a matter of figuring all that out. I need a brake pedal. See, it's not there. So I need to sort that out. Front master is 15, or like I said before, it's like 36 for the whole set. And the carb 25. And I still, if I want the electric start to work, I have to come up with a battery and a relay. And if I want to do the dashboard, anyway, just to get it basically running, I'm looking at $250. By the time I put a battery and everything else onto it, I'm at $300. And I'm just warning you guys, because this came in as basically a running bike. If I would have then discovered that the motor was, how does one say, for crap, if the motor was shot down, right, that means you're putting even more money into it. One of my subscribers said, you can end up putting too much in there. I think it was the dude, and yeah, you can find yourself on your way, with the back wheel and everything else. You can find yourself easily on your way to $700 now, 6 and change, for a bike that you could buy brandy new for somewhere around $1,000. The 125cc with the lift ran engine is worth it. It would cost you a little bit more to buy the whole thing new, but you're really not saving much. So you got to be careful. From the research I've done, it appears as if the rear wheel problems are very common on these. And you could kind of tell two different ways. The few that I have found where they're offering parts, they're offering everything but the rear wheel. Or the ones that I've found that have been complete seem to say have rear wheel problems. And lastly, it seems that outside, eBay and all, it's relatively easy to buy a rear wheel, but once again, you're tying up money. If you got $70 in the wheel, and then you got another $22 in the bolt if you buy the 15 millimeter bolt, right? Then you still got to put the brake disc on it, and you still got to put a sprocket on it. I mean, you can have, what is that, over 125 in the back wheel. So I can see why a lot of these find themselves out into the world and into trouble. What was interesting is when I bought my other bike, my Speed Defies Gravity Pit Bike, he specifically said this thing has an upgraded back tire on it, back wheel, back sprocket, and all that stuff. And I kind of like, okay, that's nice. And what I didn't realize, what he was telling me, was that it's common to have trouble back there. It was nice that I got all those new things, but in the case of that one, the motor, the third and fourth gear was stripped, and the Kickstarter was locked up. So it probably had a bad case, or has a bad case. I still have the motor inside. I guess what I'm doing here is it's kind of a cautionary tale. It could show you very quickly how an $80 bike could work its way up there. To me, this thing running properly is worth the $300. Good luck finding a pit bike that you know what's going on with for $300, right? But and I'm doing all the work myself. If this thing had to go into the shop and you were paying somebody to do this work, I mean, you could easily, I mean, if I'm looking at, minus the pit bike, if I'm looking at the major part of $200 worth of parts, if you just multiply the parts times 2, that's a $400 repair bill, plus $80 for the bike. You got almost $500 tied up, right? If not more. So Yeah, I just wanted to go through this and do the math for myself as well as you guys. And once again, my next thing is I got to find out what the story is on the bearings. Once I get the bearings sorted out and I get the bearings figured out and the back axle, I could probably make the chain adjusters. They don't look like any big deal, so I'll probably make those. They're cheap enough to buy. That's another $10-15, depending on how fancy they are. But once again, you're just watching the numbers go round and round. Before I buy the back disc or any of that other stuff, I'm going to give the Hoard a bit of a sniff. I mean, there are some parts on that guy. Then I got that other yellow, that little pit bike, the 50cc one. I want to take a look at that and see if I can't steal anything off of it, or even like this guy, right? I don't know if I'm going to be able to steal the disc, the hole, and it doesn't look big enough, but maybe the caliper. You know, I gotta look around a little bit before. You know, I gotta check the size of this bolt to see if it'll fit anywhere. Maybe even the back bearings or the front bearings. That maybe they'll go in here. So before I spend too much money on parts, I do want to do some shopping here in the Hoard. Not much use owning a Hoard with all these great parts in it if one never breaks into them and uses them for anything. So I really kind of want to go through some of the stuff I already own. Anyway, folks, I hope you found this helpful. This little bit of a cautionary tale. Once again, I'm going to be in it okay. I'm fine, but for those of you who are out there, be careful what you're buying. I'm also looking for some of these in parts, and I'm not having a good luck finding another parts bike. I'd love to find, quite honestly, what I'm after is one with a blown engine, where I could grab all the other details off of it. But thus far, I'm not having much luck. There is a character by me who sells these China quads and pit bikes and all this stuff. I was thinking of approaching him and asking him if I could trade him some labor for some parts. I mean, obviously, you know, you do a quick carb rebuild, I can bring a customer's bike back to life, and if it means after a few carb rebuilds he has one of these floating around that, you know, a customer traded in or something that I could get for free, that would work out fairly well for me, especially if it has a common carb on it, one that I could just swap out and bring the old one home and rebuild it at my convenience, or if I can put a $20 carb on there, get it running, and be done with it. So, guys, once again, please watch, comment, subscribe. I want to thank you all for joining me. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and once again, thanks for watching and commenting and subscribing. Bye now.